Welcome to Larry the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, let's discuss the new KK's Priest album, The Sinner Rides Again. This is the second album from the band. I did a review of their first album, Sermons of the Sinner. I'll leave that linked down below. I don't know if I really like the way these two titles kind of sound similar to each other, using the word sinner in both. I guess KK is the sinner. If you're anybody who follows any of the metal news sites, you know that KK will not let it go. The Judas Priest thing, he feels like he was unfairly let go of the band and he should be back in the band. And I can't help but think that the first album and this new album are him trying to out-priest Judas Priest. And in a lot of ways, he might be successful here. This is a very heavy album from top to bottom. It doesn't let up a lot. It comes right at you. Priest riffs flying all over the place. I am a fan of the last couple Judas Priest records, Firepower, Redeemer of Souls, but this is a very strong album if you're a fan of Judas Priest. Painkiller, Defenders of the Faith, you'll really like this record. There's even moments on here that bring me back to the 70s. Ripper Owens on vocals, he sounds amazing on this. I do wish that, and I think that he, compared to the first album, I think he's showing a little bit, doing some different things with his voice. A complaint I had on the first record is that maybe he spent too much time up in that Painkiller vocal range. I wish that he would sort of stretch out more and show off his wide vocal range. He spends a lot of the album very kind of intense and, right in that certain range of his voice. But there's no arguing that he is an amazing singer. Just like the first record, Tony Newton on bass really jumps out at me. Judas Priest, Ian Hill, you can't really hear his bass starting around 1980. I think that's intentional, I guess. So it's fun to hear Judas Priest sounding type riffs with some really active, interesting bass going on around them. The album is mixed and mastered by Jacob Hansen, and it's good. The guitars sound great. Everything sounds great. You can hear the bass, the drums sound good. It's maybe a tad bit overcompressed for me. I felt it was a little fatiguing as I was listening to it. The album is 41 minutes. Yes, you hear me complain on this channel all the time about albums, CDs that are just too long. Here we get a very nice, tight 41 minutes. And I also have to say that the lyrics are better on this one than on Sermons of the Sinner. That was a complaint that I had, that I felt like the lyrics weren't that great on the first album. But here I feel like the lyrics are good. There was nothing about the lyrics that jumped out at me as being kind of cringy. The album doesn't really kick in for me till about song number 4. Like the first 3 songs on the record to me felt a little too much the same in kind of tempo and feel. They're upbeat, they're in your face, they're coming at you fast and hard. Ripper's really intense all the way through. I'm talking about Strike of the Viper, Reap the Whirlwind, and Pledge Your Soul. I mean, they're good songs. They just didn't jump out at me as much, and I was kind of starting to think man, I hope that things change up a little bit here. They just weren't my favorite songs, and unfortunately they start the record. Doesn't really start kicking in for me till we get to song number 4, which is One More Shot at Glory, which I think has a fantastic chorus in it and some really killer riffs. I like the more atmospheric and different feels in some of the songs. The songs that have more atmosphere and different feels to them, like some slow or fast parts within the song, change-ups within the songs, I find that the most interesting. Stuff like The Sentinel Rides Again, Keeper of the Graves, and the album closer, Wash Away Your Sins. Those are my favorites because they have they've got different things going on. They've got the tempos dropping, acoustic guitar parts, and more mellow parts, and then blasting into more heavier parts. I do, though, wish that certain sections in these songs would have lasted longer. There's times where there's these little change-ups where the riffs go into halftime or something, and it's like it only hangs around real briefly, and then they're off of it and back to the main riff of the song. I guess I'm not going to complain because nothing feels like it overstays its welcome here. And at 41 minutes, again, it's a really nice, tight record where everything gets in, kind of hits you and gets out. Doesn't feel like any particular song overstays its welcome, which which I applaud. I do kind of wish that there might have been a pure ballad on here, like a Beyond the Realms of Death type of thing, because I like when Ripper goes into the lower part of his range and utilizes that. And I think there's a lot of great spots on this record where they create some really cool atmospheric type stuff. Like there's two songs that open with spoken word things, Hymn 66 and Wash Away Your Sins. And so I kind of wish that they maybe hung around in those feel that slower, darker feel. It had a song from beginning to end that just stayed there. But there's a lot of great catchy riffs. There's a lot of great catchy choruses on here. Sons of the Sentinel, Strike of the Viper, One More Shot at Glory, Hymn 66, Sinner Rides Again. I mean, these all have great hooks in them with the riffs and with the vocals and the choruses. So, like I mentioned, another two that I really like, Wash Away Your Sins, Keeper of the Grace. I like those because Ripper is doing some different things with his voice, creating some atmosphere. Overall, I feel like this is a really strong album. There are killer riffs just all over it. Great performances. Great. I mentioned anything about the lead playing. There's fantastic leads, some really nice guitar harmonies and stuff. I do kind of wish, I can't help this nagging feeling, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the video, that it kind of feels like KK is trying to out Priest, like proving that he is Judas Priest, or that he is a very important part of Judas Priest, which he was. But I kind of wish that maybe they would explore their own sound a little bit more. There's just times where it just really feels like it's Judas Priest. So but then there's other moments where you kind of hear more of a more unique identity from the band. And so I wish they would kind of explore that a little bit more. So, okay, there you go. I almost said the new Judas Priest record, the new KK's Priest album. Let me know what you guys think of it down below in the comments. Till we see you again. Make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.